This episode of Doctor Who honestly surprised me. I was not expecting it to go where it did, but I'm very glad that it did go there. It just did some things that made me think about all of television, really, and all of media. My goodness. Welcome back, everyone. We are here to talk about Doctor Who Episode 8, Empire of Death. I know it's been a minute, but I did really want to talk about this episode. I did watch it when it came out. I am still going to do a Season 1 full review, but for this review, we're just going to be focusing just on the season finale of Season 1, or Series 14, whatever you want to call it. It's still so confusing. Before we get into this episode, I just want to say spoiler warning, spoiler warning, spoiler warning. As River Song would say, spoilers. We are going to be talking about spoilers, so get ready, because this is the season finale. This is where it all ends, and there's some pretty interesting stuff that's hinted at, I think, in terms of where we could go next for season 2 that I want to touch on as well a little bit. And I have some thoughts, everybody. I have some thoughts about this episode for sure. So I kind of touched on Sutekh last time, but the one thing that I will say, I think I said this in my previous review from the last episode, but I'm kind of glad that it was Sutekh. I feel like it was a twist I didn't see coming. It still played into all of our theories about it being, the Doctor's granddaughter, maybe it's Susan, and it seems like, clearly Sutekh used Susan kind of as a template for what comes up. So I liked that Sutekh wasn't just a bit of a wild card, although it also played really well into a lot of the other theories people had. And for all I know, there could have been someone out there that had a Sutekh theory. I was not one of those people. But if you had that theory, good job. I don't even know how you got that. I feel like Sutekh is so classic, I wasn't even thinking about it at all. This is also making me feel like I need to go back and just rewatch everything, because there's so many good deep cuts in this season. And I even feel like I really need to go back and watch classic Doctor Who, because I think there's going to be a lot of callbacks to that. And that's the one area that I'm a little more shady on. I've only seen a few episodes from the classic era of Doctor Who, so maybe I'll do that. So what ends up happening is, obviously we get this reveal of Sutekh, and Sutekh has minions, including Susan Triad, who it turns out is kind of one of Sutekh's wraiths, if you will, one of their henches, and uses this dust of death to just destroy everyone. And basically all of Sutekh's agents, including a sleeper agent that was part of UNIT, are just destroying everyone. For a minute, I actually thought Kate might be gone. I thought Kate might be dust for life, because I felt like they lingered on her a bit, and I gotta say, I think they did a good job of building it up to feel like this could be the end of times. Of course, it's not the end of times, because this is Doctor Who, so the Doctor does save the day, but it was a fun journey that we went on to get there, and I did feel the stakes, which, is not easy to do in a show where we're constantly threatening, all of the cosmos, pretty much, usually, or an entire world, or something like that. The problems are usually pretty cosmic. I did also think that it was interesting how Sutekh revealed that they were just hiding on the TARDIS the entire time, cloaked. I wonder if that's going to come up at all again, and we're going to talk about that, because that is a huge implication in terms of the history of Doctor Who. It means everywhere the Doctor has been, Sutekh has been there, and I wonder if something else could have been going on. I mean, now Sutekh is gone, but all of Sutekh's, angels of death, presumably, that Sutekh placed throughout the cosmos should still exist, and probably, that copy of Susan is going to be everywhere, just doing different stuff, I think, because Susan Triad came back on Earth, right? So I wonder if we'll do anything else with that. I think that could be cool if we do. I also love this idea of the remembered TARDIS, and how Ruby has to manifest it sort of with memories, and they'll have to remember really hard. It's really corny, but I really liked it. And I really liked, obviously, all the bits and bobs that are references to so many other TARDISes from the past, so many other Doctors from the past. So that was really cool. We also get a really cool callback after the remembered TARDIS comes into existence and the Doctor and Mel and Ruby are escaping. I thought it was really cool that we get the rope, the intelligent rope in the glove from the beginning of Ruby and the Doctor's journey together. I also loved how that's actually used. We'll talk about that in a bit, but it was just a fun little callback, and I liked that it was a smoking gun in a way that I was not expecting it to be. It was like a whole season smoking gun in a way. I got emotional. I was also wondering, Ruby in this episode talks about 73 yards. They talk about the perception field of the TARDIS and how its range is 73 yards. And Ruby obviously knows this. She doesn't know how she knows it because her whole episode where 73 yards basically undoes itself by the end. However, I was wondering, obviously that's the significance of how far that woman is from her. She's measured it before, which is her, we learn. But I was wondering what that means. What exactly is that about? Does it have to do with the fact that because Ruby came from the TARDIS, sometimes I know the perception field can extend? So was it just supposed to be that Ruby was shielded during that episode by the TARDIS, and that's why her future self had to stay 73 yards away? Does it mean something else in relation to Ruby's connection to the TARDIS? I don't know. Let me know what your thoughts are on that. I think it's supposed to be that the perception filter may be extended onto Ruby, and it's just a kind of an explanation for it that they just dropped in there for us. But that's my interpretation, and I do like that I feel like it's still left up to interpretation. Unless you feel it's very closed and shut, let me know. This is one of those episodes, too, where since all of Earth is decimated by the dust of death, and not even just Earth, we are talking on a cosmic level. Multiple planets are being decimated across the universe, across the galaxy, across all of time and space. For the Doctor to be upset here and have that moment in the TARDIS where he just screams into the void of space and cries, I felt that. And this is one of those episodes where I actually felt like the tears needed to be here. It was very necessary, and it felt earned. And I just wanted to say that although I've been complaining about the tears, I actually liked them in this episode because I felt like they really worked. However, I do feel they would have been more impactful in this season finale if we hadn't had, so many tears throughout the season, because like I said, it does make the whole season, I think, feel a bit one note. But we'll talk about that more in the full season review. I want to talk about the overall tone and just the through line for the season in that review. So once we've established everything is dying, the Doctor is trying to put a plan together to defeat Sutekh, and they discover that, Sutekh is obsessed with Ruby's parentage because it's a mystery. And they decide maybe there's something in that. Maybe Ruby's mother was someone super powerful, and they can use that in some way. So they're on the hunt to figure that out. As they're going through the cosmos, they also run into this woman, and the Doctor gets a spoon, and he says, I'm going to use this spoon to save, everyone. And I loved that. It's just so quirky and so fun and so real, because obviously he does use that spoon to do that. And I love the idea that a spoon saved everything. I mean, really, it's the Doctor, but a spoon and some genius, and what can't you do? You can MacGyver anything if you're Doctor Who. You can MacGyver anything if you are the Doctor, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, they do end up finding out who Ruby's mother is, and they use that to bait Sutekh, and then that's where the intelligent rope comes in. They basically rope Sutekh to the TARDIS, travel through the cosmos with Sutekh, bringing death to all the places that Sutekh already brought death. And what happens when you kill death? You get life, and so everything is restored. I thought that was a very smart way to finish the episode. It felt witty, it felt cool. I liked the payoff of them using literally equipment from the beginning of their adventure, and that callback, that felt really fun. It just felt like a smart little bit of writing, and I really enjoyed that. But I also really enjoyed that after they use that information, the reveal ultimately ends up being that Ruby's mom is no one. She's just a woman on Earth. She just had a baby when she was really young. She wasn't ready, so she did what she had to do, and she left the baby there on Ruby Road at the church, and that's it. Nothing crazy, guys. Nothing crazy. This is, I think, a controversial episode for some people. Not controversial, maybe, but it's a split episode, I think, in terms of how people feel about that ending. I think some people are really disappointed, and then there's people like me that I think really enjoy that. And why I enjoy that is it just feels like, not everything has to be something. I like when sometimes it's nothing, because it messes with my expectation in a really fun way, because I always think something has to be important, especially in Doctor Who. But I also like it because it's kind of a commentary on how we as viewers and as fans can get obsessed with this idea of hype and theories and all of these things, and how in a way our expectations can actually lead to our own disappointment in something that are expectations that might not have even necessarily been ingrained in the show or in whatever we're watching, but they're just something that we really want to happen. So we want to manifest it. And when it doesn't happen, then we feel disappointed. This idea that our expectation, our want for something to be something more can be our own destruction, like what happens with Sutekh. It's kind of like, I feel, a commentary on how we consume media these days and how we can get swept up in hype, and it can be dangerous to do that. It's good to manage your expectations and keep in mind how much of what you're doing is you really wanting to see something as opposed to the building blocks that you're given through the writing. Now, I do think with the snow and everything, we were given something there. The snow that kept appearing with Ruby, the fact that we couldn't find out who her mom was, it was all very mysterious. Obviously, we have, you know, gods on the scene and stuff like that, so there is the idea that it could be connected to that. But, you know, other than the snow, I don't feel like we had a lot with Ruby. And I just think it was something that we wanted to happen, you know? So I wasn't desperately attached to it. I just thought it could be cool if that's what they were going to do. And I was curious as to what the answer was. But I like this because it feels like a commentary. And I really appreciate the commentary and think it speaks to me. Because I am also guilty of sometimes getting wrapped up in stuff and ultimately disappointing myself. With my own desires. I'm also wondering, at the end of this episode, Sutekh obviously is completely destroyed by the doctor. And I wonder, you know, the doctor says, like, you made me do this. So it makes me wonder if there's going to be ramifications and how that will affect the doctor going into season 2. Because clearly, this whole season, the doctor's really been trying to avoid letting anyone perish. Feeling really bad when that happens. And now the doctor actually had to be the person to do that. He didn't want to be, but he had to save everything, to save all life. But even though you save all life, you still had to take a life, and I think that's going to take a toll on the doctor. Not to say that the doctor hasn't had to use extreme force before against the villain, but I do think it takes a toll when the doctor has to do that. Especially for this incarnation of the Doctor. When it comes to Ruby's ending, I also really liked it. I like the idea that Ruby just gets to find her family, and she just gets to talk to her mom. Honestly, that whole scene, although I think it was a bit cheesy, it did make me cry. I felt it. I like the simplicity of Ruby just ordering a drink and giving her name, and then when her name is called out, just saying, you know, my mom named me after a road that she left me on. That's where my name is from. And her mom realizing who it is, and then her just saying, you know, I just wanted to thank you because you gave me such a great life. And I really appreciated it. And how her mom just apologized. And she's like, no, you don't have to be sorry. I just wanted to say thank you. And the love that they felt. And this idea that her mom did want to reach out. But she just felt like, oh, I can't. Like, it's been so long. She might hate me for abandoning her. And then they find each other. And it's beautiful. And of course, the doctor's like, yeah, that's great for you, Ruby. But I'm definitely not going to come meet your dad or hang out with the fam. Not really my vibe. I create my own fam and then I travel through space with those people, and that's kind of it. So kind of a bittersweet ending to Ruby's story because I'm sad to see her go. I did really like Millie Gibson, but I am happy for the character. And I like that she gets a happy ending. That's so rare, I feel like, sometimes with our companions, that they actually get to be happy and not be doomed in some way. And I like the idea that I think she could come back. I think she will come back in season 2, and we'll probably see her again. And she can just be this character that pops in now and then. Like we did with Mel, you know? That callback to Mel. So at any time, we could see Millie again. And I would love that, because I love her as Ruby. I also love how at the end, the Doctor is back in his standout, his set look. People were saying in this season that it felt like he didn't really have like a costume, I guess, but he's back in his initial look, and I really like that look, and I hope we get to see more of it in season 2 because I've really liked it. I do think he's been in it a lot, though. I do think he's been in it a lot. I need to go back. I'll go back through the season when I do my review and maybe take a look at that. See how many different looks we've had for the Doctor. But I think it's just modified usually. Like sometimes it's with the coat, sometimes not. That type of thing. Then it ends with another twist because we find out that the snow is coming from Mrs. Flood. We also got a weird bit in this episode where I figured Mrs. Flood was someone from day one. And I kind of thought Flood was going to be Ruby's mom in some way, or connected to Ruby or something, or connected to the Doctor, but then nothing ever came of it really. It was interesting that she broke the fourth wall. You know, that's really interesting. Now, with the name Flood, I immediately thought of the Capaldi two-part story that starts with Before the Flood, and the villain in that is the Fisher King. And so I'm wondering if this will have any connection to the Fisher King. That's my theory. But what Flood said that made me think some kind of invasion, some kind of end of days, perhaps, is in the episode Before She Dusts. She says to Ruby's grandmother, "Tell your maker I come to storm down his gates of gold and seize his kingdom in my true name. I'm sorry, you tiny little woman. I'm so, so sorry it ends like this. I had such plans." And then they turn into dust. And then at the end, we see her all done up in her white sort of parka. It's snowing around her. She got a white umbrella, a little suitcase. And she tells us that for the continuation of the Doctor's story, as once again she breaks the fourth wall, that she is sorry to say his story ends in absolute terror. Very interesting for season 2. So I am wondering who Flood will be, what will it mean as we go in to season 2. But that's my theory right now. Maybe some connection to the Fisher King and Before the Flood. But could be anything. Could be Missy? Maybe not Missy. I don't know. I just really want Missy to come back. That's all it is. That's wishful thinking. I got to take the lesson from the episode and apply it. All right, friends. So that's it for the season finale. I hope you enjoyed this review. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, friends, stay nerdy and keep it timey-wimey.